What's up, everybody? We're back. Happy Black History Month and slash Valentine's Day month. It's February. So obviously, the first movie I wanted to review for February for Black History Month is something I've been making a detailed note on. It's like that is gotta be the first one I gotta do. That is gotta be the first one I gotta do because I haven't seen it in many years. So 90s, but is a cult classic. Meteor Man! Meteor Man! God, this movie is it has its issues, but it just like it had like a nomination but lost to Jurassic Park, which fair. What did it? It received a Saturn Award, Yeah, I can't talk. Saturn Award nomination for Best Science Fiction Film, but lost to Jurassic Park. Fair. It is Jurassic Park. The visuals on that movie is freaking stunning. Which, by the way, I should do a review on the first Jurassic Park film. But man, the actors, everybody, brought the A game. It was funny where it needs to be funny. It was charming where it needs to be charming. But the box office, budget at that time didn't really speak to, because like I said, it's a cult classic. It happens sometimes. It's gotten love over the years, but at the time when it was released on August 6th, 1993, it had like a budget of $20 million, but it came out, at least domestically, $8 million. So it didn't do all too well, which is unfortunate. But because at that time, because it's like you got black-led superheroes, or even an all-black cast. Throughout not even just the 90s, but 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, it wasn't until something like Blade came along, where at least a little 5 years later, after this movie had came out, where a black-led character who's a superhero did gangbusters at the box office. So people to this day still remember Robert Townsend as Meteor Man. It's like he of course he was in the Five Heartbeats, and there was like a Disney Channel movie, also a superhero family type of thing. God, I should put it on my list for next year, Black History Month, to talk about, because I remember enjoying that film. I forgot what it's called. Let me look it up really quick. And he's also Robert Townsend is also from Chicago. This is kind of dope. What is that freaking? Oh, he was in that show The Bear, I think. Or it was a show or a movie? I thought it was like some kind of show. Yeah, it's a TV show. I didn't know he was in that, because people talking about how the bear is all so dope and everything like that. I haven't seen it. Up and Away, that was the movie. Literally in 2000, and he was the director of that. In fact, I should put that on the list. I don't know if that's on Disney Plus. I doubt it, because ironically Disney Plus doesn't have everything Disney related, which is weird. Like the Mickey Mouse Club, what the heck? definitely gonna be on the list. Uh, Sorry, because if I don't do it, it's gonna bug me. I don't want to forget. But yeah, I want to do that definitely next year. But yeah, not his first rodeo in like superhero related stuff. Anyway, this movie stars. It was directed by Robert Townsend, written by Robert Townsend, produced by Robert Townsend and Laretha C. Jones. Stars Robert Townsend as Jefferson Reed, aka Meteor Man, Marla Gibbs as Maxine Reed, his mom, Eddie Griffin as his best friend Michael, Robert Gilliam as Ted Reed, the father, James Earl Jones as the neighbor, Ernest Moses, who hilariously in almost every scene he has a different type of wig on. Trying to be young and hip or some kind of thing. It was funny just for that, honestly. We got Bill Cosby as this homeless guy named Marvin. A lot of 90s musical artists is involved in this film. We got another bad creation as the Junior Lords, part of the gang members of the Golden Lords. Oh my god, and the bad guys in this is so 90s because like, you got like these gangs, because you got like legit gangs, real world gangs like the Bloods and the Crips in like a short snippet in this film, played by other musical artists. But we also get these made up ones called the Golden Lords, who is dressed in like all black kind of suits kind of thing with bleach blonde hair. So stupid. I can't help but like just laugh at it. My god, we actually took gangs like this seriously back then. I mean, I was a little kid, at the time, but I'm just saying, like, watching movies at the time, these guys seem like a legit like big deal. But it's like looking through like, past 2010 and you looking back, it's like, god, we actually took gangs like that seriously. We got Stephanie E. Williams as Stacy, the love interest of Jefferson. Roy Fegan as Simon Kang, the leader of the Golden Lords. Frank Gorshin as Anthony Byers, the big top drug lord that Simon works under. Got Luther Vandross as another different gang leader working under Anthony, named Jameson. Sinbad, in a kind of short cameo, as Malik, Stacy's actual boyfriend. Got Naughty by Nature as the members of the Bloods street gang. Cypress Hill as the members of the Crips street gang. Big Daddy Kane as Pirate, one of the members of the Golden Lords. Don Cheadle as Goldilocks, another member, high-ranking member of the Golden Lords, who's right-hand man to Simon. Nancy Wilson as Principal Lewis, Principal Laws as Jefferson's boss. Debo, Tommy Tiny Lester as Digit, another Golden Lord member, a strong man. Jennifer Lewis as Mrs. Williams, Lewis's mother. You get like a short little cameo with two actors from Friday. John Witherspoon as Clarence James Carter the third, who's just a con man with like a short little thing. And we got Chris Tucker as like an MC in a mall, uncredited. This is because like I hear him like only seen this movie like a handful of times as a little kid, and now looking back on it now today as rewatching it, I'm listening to this MC because you don't see him. You listen to this MC, and I'm like, is that Chris Tucker? I'm just shocked, like the amount of people that mostly are either A-list stars or B-list stars today that there were. Well, I think black people know who these people are, but I think in general, I think people probably will recognize James Earl Jones more so than almost anybody else in this entire cast. I mean, aside from maybe Luther Vandross, people might have and Bill Cosby, and you see Debo, but outside of that, I'm not sure how many other people outside of black people know who. Well, I think maybe people know Marla Gibbs. Everybody watched the Jeffersons, but in terms of Eddie Griffin, I don't know how many white people or people that's not black know who Eddie Griffin is like that. A handful of people outside of black people, probably remember who Robert Townsend is, because he's been in quite, a decent amount of stuff. Sinbad, of course, many people know who Sinbad is. So it's like at least half the cast people would globally recognize. And the other half is you got to be on the end to know. But black people wholeheartedly know a lot of who these people are. Anyway, on to the summary of the film. Now, this is definitely like a good hero's journey type of story, and a type of hero's journey where the not answering the call to adventure type of deal, where Jeff is it's good. It was written pretty well in this character, where it's like you kind of show don't tell kind of situation, where this guy isn't known to engage in altercation. He avoid altercation altogether because he's kind of meek, mild-mannered kind of thing. He's a teacher at this school, and his friend Michael is like the science teacher of the school. And I don't know I can't remember what Jeff teaches at the school. No, he's a sub. That's the thing. He's a substitute teacher. And he got into work. He got in trouble with the principal when this kid who's literally in like a cast is in trouble with the kid's parents, because the parents is teaching the kid how to stand up for himself, while Jeff who the kid looks up to, told him the opposite, where it's like, just, run away, and pretty much teaching the kid how to, essentially, without mincing words here, he kind of taught the kid pretty much do the coward's way out by running away and do everything they can to avoid confrontation altogether, which further encourages the bullies to try to pick on him more. Now, it's a tightrope when teaching little kids how to deal with bullies, because there are times where, because Hollywood kind of fantasize that at least a little bit too much, where it's like, oh, you stand up to these bullies, then they will respect you, or they at least back down or not mess with you, which could work. There's at least a slight possibility that is like a thing, or here's the thing: the bully will not just back down because this kid stood up for himself. Realistically, the kid will more than likely will just engage in the fight. Like, oh, you think big and bad, so you ruffle and tumble and things like that. And that will be the more likely scenario. But the kid will have more the kid who got bullied will have more self-respect about himself, where he's not one to be messed with because he will defend himself, which is the right thing to do. But because I'm just recalling how I was taught, because I was bullied as a little kid and stuff, and my father told me to, like, go tell a teacher if I get bullied and stuff like that, which mix I won't say mixed signals, mixed emotions, where it's like, because I did, was, me and my younger brother took karate classes and everything like that to know how to fight. Didn't really stick to it, didn't get any kind of black belt or anything like that. So I vaguely remember certain moves, but I'm not like a complete, freaking Power Ranger or anything like that. But it's good for a young kid to know how to defend himself in case he does get bullied. But it's not necessarily wrong to, try to go to a teacher when you're getting picked on. And of course, I remember back in the day, not many, because this is way before the whole anti-bullying thing was a thing in like the mid 2000s, I think. Prior to that, it's just, teachers, some, like, they deal with, in case, when kids getting picked on, they deal with it. But more often than not, you're trying to get, I won't say try to get through the day, but it's just, they ain't trying to play referee every doggone time, which is understandable. But it obviously also isn't solving the problem with, a kid clearly bullying somebody relentlessly, which we've seen horrible outcomes with, kids who constantly getting picked on, and they end up, coming to school with a gun or anything like that because the constant bullying. So it like I said, it's a tightrope how certain people have to deal with certain things. So Jeff gets chastised by the way he was trying to help the young kid, but the way he did it was just wrong. He wasn't. What he should have done is like not like run away like a little coward, because that's how he solves issues, or not solve issues. But you should just say, like, if you don't want to engage, you don't have to. No one's going to force you to fight, even though there's going to be occasions where you probably have to stick up for yourself. And this young boy will eventually grow up or get a girlfriend at some point, and you're going to have to defend her honor in case something pops off. If push comes to shove, not to saying like he needs to engage in every little fight. I'm saying, like, if the chips are down, he needs to be able to mix it up if push comes to shove. So Jeff was wrong in that case, but you should have just said, like, come to me or any of the principal or any teacher so we can deal with the situation. But the parents are more so in the right in the sense of teaching how to stand up for himself. But the only thing I was against the fact with the parents is, it's their kid. They're upset clearly that the kid got beat up. So I say more so misplaced anger, because you should be a little bit more mad at whoever was picking on this kid and literally put the kid in a cast and deal with, like, the kid's parents and be a little bit more mad at them instead of Jeff. But they didn't. And then the mom, who forgot her name, but she was in the many films, but she's also in, if you ever watched the TV show Blackish, she played as Anthony Anderson's mom in that show. Uh, 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 she's a mom here, and she throws in Jeff's face. Have you ever stood up for anything, for anybody at any time, Mr. Like, Mr. Reed? And this really like kind of really set the tone, like what this guy is. Like I said, it's like pretty good writing. It's like this guy, doesn't engage in confrontation, and then of course, this is set in DC. The neighborhood Jeff comes from is harassed by the Golden Lords gang, who, peddling drugs and recruiting not just teenagers but little kids. You got little kids, these little 8-year-olds, or like 7 or 8-year-old little tots, like trying to like muscle in on. Later see a couple of them who are from Reed's school, who you see like slashing tires and breaking car windows and stuff like that. Mugging some lady. And it's like, lady, you're twice their size. Toss their little butt somewhere. It was kind of weird, but it's just like crazy. Like, I know gangs recruit. Is not foreign. A concept where gangs back in the day recruit young kids, but usually they're teenagers, like straight up from high school, but not like little toddlers. But I wouldn't say toddlers, but like they aging out of the whole toddler stage, but they haven't even gone to their preteens yet. It's just kind of crazy, but it just adds to the level of the threat this gang is to this neighborhood, where they even recruiting. They're so influential, they recruit even small young kids. So Jeff's father, who's kind of like the Uncle Ben here, slash John Kent kind of thing, where he stands up for what's right. He doesn't back down. He's not intimidated by these thugs. And it's like most people is like ready to like see them. They want to cross the street just to avoid any confrontation with these guys. You see Don Cheeto Goldilocks, harassing this guy on the street. And Ted, it's like, I'm not crossing the street. I'm gonna walk like I'm normally gonna walk. I don't give a crap. And so he walks, he bumps. He's probably more so intentional, where he bumps into Goldilocks as he dropped this little drug thing, a little vial thing, onto the ground. And he was like, "You lucky you didn't break, old man." And then Ted like just steps on it and cracks the cocaine vial kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I think that part is when he was stupid, honestly. I get it. He's not one to be pushed around, and he's not intimidated by these gangs. And so he's not going to sit there and walk across the street like everybody else who's scared. He's going to just, beeline like he was, doing so in the first place. But then, instead of just walking past them, not giving any, oxygen, but then he I guess maybe because he sees him like literally peddling drugs, he literally bumps into them. But I don't think like it was like literally necessary to also add to the fact that you stepped on the drug vial. Like, I get it, but it just seems like, man, you just like, what are you clearly trying to make a point? But it's like, I'm not sure how necessary it was. I mean, it's like, in my opinion, maybe 20% necessary, if that. But I don't think it was really that necessary to add that level. Like, you're forcing the confrontation at this point. Before things really get heated, the police, was driving by, so they couldn't do nothing. You later see, them get the get back by, jumping Ted one night. But you see them at like a community center and everything like that. And this is around the time, this is around the time where people used to break in people's cars and steal their car radio. That was a thing. I don't know when that eventually stopped, because nobody steals radios and hawks radios anymore, because that's not profitable anymore, obviously. But it had to be the mid 2000s at the very latest. So I'm not sure when eventually that stopped, because it stopped being a thing altogether. It had to be around the time when flip phones became, not flip phones, but those Razor flip phones. It had to be around that time, because I don't know. It's just certain things stop being profitable, so thieves stop doing it altogether. And also, you see people break into people's apartments to steal their TV and stereos and stuff like that. Literally, kind of like aping from Batman Year One type of scenario that we see later in the film. Meteor Man confronts these crooks breaking into an apartment to steal like a TV set. It's like, that's very Batman Year One. It just immediately jumps to my mind. I'm not sure how many comics that Robert Townsend must have read to not base, but kind of like utilized in his inspiration of building this character in this movie. Which, by the way, Marvel Comics made at least a decent amount of Meteor Man comic issues, and even had the character meet up with Spider-Man and Miles Morales. Even Miles Morales dealt for a short period in time the Golden Lords at some point. So it was really cool. I gotta at some point look up and read a couple of Meteor Man comics and maybe do like a review about that, because I thought that was very interesting. Because I was like, man, I want to know what happened, what happened post this movie's narrative. Anyway, when Jeff sees that his car was broken into and his radio was stolen, he sees in the alley that these young kids that go to his school is like literally mugging a woman, and he decides now that he should okay, I'm gonna say something. These are just little kids, like I can deal with this little thing. But then you hear like the leader, Simon, who I guess trying to be a stick, that he plays with a slinky. And I can't help but think about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective 2, whereas Ace Ventura is like playing with a slinky up and down some like monk stairs. It's like everybody loves a slinky, a wonderful toy. God, remember that commercial? God, that was a good commercial. But I can't help but think about that movie. Him just wasting freaking time by playing with a slinky, trying to mimic the commercial where he just like hops down each step and keeps on going. It's like I literally tried to do that with a slinky, but not a metal one. It was like a plastic one, and it didn't go down completely down the steps of my house that I grew up in as a little kid. And just like Ace Ventura, it stopped shy of the last step. And it's like, God, that's so disappointing. Anyway, I go off on tangent. The Golden Lord starts coming in out of the shadows because these guys just pop up like, you know, like they're freaking the League of Assassins or something. And I don't know how or why, but it just kind of adds to like the mysterious or like kind of like ethereal terror these guys impose on the community. But I can't take that bleached blonde hair so that seriously. It's like, you know, trying to fight Cisco. Another classic musical artist, by the way, in case you don't know, the guy who made the Thong Song and the song Wild Wild West. That guy. He was part of the musical group called Drew Hill. Anyway, so Jeff runs away. He runs down a series of streets and alleys, and eventually he jumps into a dumpster trying to hide. One of the students, the young kids who's, you know, trying to be a part of the Golden Lords, essentially the initiation period. One of them sees Jeff in the dumpster and shows that, you know, these guys, you know, these little kids hadn't gone too far. Sees him and decides not to say nothing, just, you know, pretends like, oh, nobody's in there. So they just run away. They all just go away. And as soon as some time went by, Jeff finally crawls out of the dumpster and he notices a meteorite who earlier in the opening credits, you see like a meteor getting hit by a more, I guess, radioactive or cosmic radiation, maybe. I'm not sure. Like the thing, maybe it's got to be cosmic rays or something like that. I don't know. Not cosmic rays specifically, but something irradiating a meteor that clashed into another meteor and sends it, you know, colliding to Earth, where this big chunk starts literally following him. It's like kind of locked on to Jeff, hits him, and it left like burns and scars while the meteor is absorbed into Jeff's body, and he collapses unconscious. And then you see like the bum Marvin picks up the one stray chunk that didn't get absorbed, and he takes it and just, you know, walks away. Jeff gets, you know, taken to the hospital and treated. And I'm surprised that they haven't like brought in more people or other scientists or something like that to study this guy. They eventually let him go, but you see that, you know, his wounds are completely healed, and then you see that, you know, little by little, his, you know, what kind of powers he has. I'm gonna go over this really quick, which a couple of them are kind of stupid because you never really lock on to like a solid power set. It's kind of like BS. You know, there's a couple of them are kind of BS, like him blowing, you know, I guess it's supposed to be like weather manipulation or something, but he just blows air against some clouds that cause it to turn to a rain cloud, so you can, like, you know, water this garden he is building for the ghetto neighborhood, for the neighborhood people. And then he forces fertility into the soil. Those two is kind of okay. That's kind of BS. He's kind of like doing random stuff like it's like a freaking cartoon. Everything else you can probably hang your hat on, but what kind of stuff? Like flight, X-ray / laser vision, superhuman strength, speed, and hearing, invulnerability, healing powers, and super breath, telepathy, or more so is communing with dogs specifically. It'd been a little bit more cool if he's just able to commune with all animals, not just dogs, but we only see dogs here because he has a dog. You got like some telekinesis, but he also, which is kind of cool and unique to somebody like Meteor Man, because I never see any other superhero who would do this. I mean, because he just touches a book and he absorbs the knowledge of its contents for only 30 seconds. Like one of the nurses brushes up against Jeff with one of the medical books, where he absorbed the contents for about 30 seconds. He knows everything there is to know about, like, he can, as much as like any doctor would know. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, the only other occasion I see a superhero do something like that is like the Flash and Superman, because they can, they're super speed, they can speed read and know what it is to know about whatever contents that's inside. Like I seen at some point years ago where Flash reads through a book about construction, and he's able to rebuild a building that was recently burned to the ground. And after he saved a couple of people inside a burning building, he goes to a library, reads everything he needs to know about construction and architecture, and he runs right back and rebuilds everything after it just recently burnt down. That's the only other time I actually seen a superhero do something fairly close to what Meteor Man is able to do. I thought that was pretty doggone cool and unique. So he goes home. He's telling his best friend Michael and his parents and the neighbor Moses about his abilities, but he wants to keep it a secret. Well, of course, the mom, and I like Marla Gibbs. He's an incredible actor, but here it's just like, again, it's like you're a proud mom. You're super hyped. And she comes up with the idea about like making him a costume and everything like that. And of course, they have to make a reference to superheroes, like you're better than Batman, better than Spider-Man, and better than Superman. And I'm like, whoa, okay, like calm down with the whole Superman part. Okay, it's like Superman is probably the only other kind of hero that he probably cannot really like duke it out long term with. He probably can put up a fight, but yeah, Spider-Man and Batman, like no chance against Meteor Man. But Jeff is hesitant because, once again, despite his powers, he does not want engage in confrontation. He doesn't want to be any kind of superhero. Well, of course, the mom eventually tells the whole entire freaking neighborhood, which they start inventing a freaking hotline for him, which I'm surprised is not like some there has to be some kind of Meteor Man memorabilia at some point that might reckon at a high price or something like that. Buy it at a high price. Kind of like get a reference Batman 60s with Adam West, with the hotline that he can get a direct line to people, to the neighborhood about what's going on. But he doesn't want to deal with that. Like, he doesn't want to be any kind of superhero. He just want to live his normal life. But then one night, the Golden Lords break into his apartment, and his landlord, who he's friends with, she gets, like her spot gets, broken into. She gets beat up. And you hear, like, if you could pay attention to like what's going on and what's being said in the background between the paramedics and the news reporter that's interviewing Moses, and you hear like what's going on in the background, because the camera's focused on Jeff, and he's looking down and he sees like a beat up landlady, and you hear like the paramedics talking about like, it's a good thing we were close by, otherwise, like, she probably wouldn't have made it. And then you hear like the reporter, she talking about like, God, I hate coming down here. It's always, things are so terrible down here. So referencing how bad this ghetto neighborhood is with all these gang members terrorizing these people. Goes to show like how bad gangs were, especially in the 90s. There's still gangs out there in the world, but because like there's still Bloods and Crips and stuff like that, but like when you hear things on the news, they're not like the big focus anymore. They're still there. It's like something like the mafia. They're kind of like a dying breed in a way. It's still crime, but in terms of like kids getting recruited by Crips and Bloods, I imagine there's like I said, is probably scared. I don't know. You gotta probably look it up and see how prevalent they are. They're still around. I remember watching years ago, Watch Mojo about like active criminals in the world or something like that, and like there's still Yakuza, there's still Crips and Bloods and stuff like that. The Crips and Bloods, I'm not sure how large force they are today than they used to be back in like the 80s and the 90s and even parts of the early 2000s, but like I said, I don't know. I'm not sure how prevalent they are these days. Anyway, this sparks the kick in the pants that Jeff needed, because it's like, okay, this is getting completely out of hand. Now it's hitting really close to home to him, because it's literally his apartment. It could have easily been his mom. So that's when he decides to step up. Like I said, this is like really like a mark of a good hero's journey type of tale. The call to adventure. So you see all these dopey looking costumes in practical BS before it settled on the iconic Meteor Man suit, where it's still very like it's kind of like, I'm not wearing hockey pads. It's clearly padded out and very 90s type of outfit, but still retro enough to still be kind of cool. They have to do like a remake of this. If you want a remake, if Hollywood wants to remake anything, they should remake something like Meteor Man into like a present day type of story, with a little bit more streamlined type of costume, because that would be very, very dope to make not a remake, but like maybe like a sequel to the Meteor Man story, where it's kind of like Black Lightning in the TV show, where it's like a very prevalent superhero that eventually kind of retired and stopped being active, but then his kids inherit his powers, and now the more modern day they gotta learn to be superheroes because he hasn't been active for so many years. That would be very dope to have as like a sequel to the Meteor Man movie. And of course, some actors can't be involved because they either passed away or they're very old. Because you probably still, I'm pretty sure James Earl Jones and Eddie Griffin can still do it. Robert Townsend can easily still do it. Bill Cosby, highly unlikely anybody want him to get involved in anything at this point. I'm not sure how many Cypress Hills or Naughty by Nature members would want to be involved. I imagine there's still a couple that will be involved. Of course, Luther Vandross passed away, so you won't get anything from him. Eddie Griffin can easily be involved, but I don't know. This is kind of like it would have been dope to get like some of these veteran actors reprising certain roles again, but also have like a batch of new cast members with a gentrified DC neighborhood dealing with a different level of crime. And maybe because it's kind of sort of tied to Marvel Comics, have reference to it has some kind of ties to the MCU. Maybe that'd be kind of dope. And you hear like word has a cameo with Tom Holland, Spider-Man, or something like that, dealing with the child of Meteor Man. That would be kind of dope. I'm just saying. Anyway. So now, because he doesn't fly, because he has a fear of flying, because earlier he gets shot at by Goldilocks and the other gang members, but he's immune to bullets, and he kind of flies up and grabs on the light pole, which Simon doesn't believe anything they're saying, thinking that they just bossed it up and they're making up stories. But like Superman, he doesn't wear a mask, and it's shocking that nobody eventually kind of, it took a while before anybody put two and two together that this guy is is Jefferson Reed. But because only I'll get to that in a minute, but so he doesn't fly out the window. He kind of hovers, car level above the ground, because he still has that fear of heights. So he only hovers above the ground, and he like a car. He kind of is, gliding in the air on the street. Shockingly, he hasn't bumped into any freaking cars, or any cars see him hovering above the air. So he starts taking down Golden Lord's, drug stash houses, and stops the gunfight between Crips, Bloods, and the cops, and settle stuff with the neighborhood, which is dope. But also, I don't know, the cops would just immediately arrest these guys because they're gang members and probably done tons of criminal activity before you showed up. But it's supposed to be some kind of nice moment where he's brokering peace, using words and not violence. Then he starts doing better for the community by making a community garden, and which causes a massive growth of vegetables. And it's your powers comes from a meteorite, which probably has a bit of cosmic radiation, and you're imbuing that in the soil of these fruits and vegetables, which, by the way, they're so large, eventually they probably would become rotten. And also, how sure are you're not poisoning your neighborhood with all this radiation? You don't know. I'm just thinking about that as a practical standpoint of I don't know. I guess you gotta suspend your disbelief on that front, but it's just you could be poisoning the neighborhood, with your powers, even though yes, you're growing rapidly all these vegetables to help feed the neighborhood for free, rather than having to spend tons of money for groceries and stuff like that. They have free vegetables to because Whole Foods wasn't a thing then, but buying vegetables and fruits and stuff like that was crazy expensive. So you got free fruits and vegetables for the neighborhood to give the neighborhood healthy food to eat. But who knows, this might be radiated, I don't know. Anyway, everybody's praising Meteor Man. He becomes a local hero. But now Simon's getting chastised by his boss at the table, so now the pressure's on him to deal with this guy, and it's 2 million bounty on this guy's head. But then you get this con man played by John Witherspoon claiming to be Meteor Man, but it's all BS. But then it gives Michael the idea, because he says a horn dog he sneaks into Jeff's apartment, steals his costume, wears like a green mask because it's like the only time we actually practically wear a mask, so that way nobody would know who he is, so he can like flaunt at the mall, so he can hook up with girls. But then Jeff finds out, obviously furious. He runs down there. At the same time, that's where a couple of members of the Golden Lords, and even like, you know, Jameson, I keep calling him Luther Vandross. His name is Jameson in the film, but I'm just gonna call him Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross sees him, and of course, Jeff using his telekinesis to pretend like, oh, he's flying, but he also used his laser vision to disrupt the hammer of the Golden Lord's guns, so that way they won't be able to let off any rounds in this crowded mall. So Jeff obviously eventually gets found out. He takes Michael outside the mall, you know, flips him upside down to force the clothes off of him, because he's disappointed in his friend who would take advantage like that just to get with girls. And he gets his suit and he flies away. But then the Golden Lords then kind of like pop up at Jeff's school. Somehow they sneak into this. Like I said, they just like they're freaking ninjas for some reason. Jeff looks up and they're just there. But thanks to Michael, who walks in and claims like, hey, you know, Meteor Man was just, you know, showing up and, you know, saving these people out in the neighborhood. That was crazy, right? And knowing that they can't do nothing here in like a public school, so they leave. So eventually things turn a little bit more dire when, at the same time, while the Golden Lords are ramping up their chaos in the neighborhood, Jeff is slowly losing his powers. Now, being like a science teacher, he suspects like, okay, after he apologizes to his friend, he notices that because the gang members, you know, outside of the community center, tried to do like a, you know, St. Valentine's Day massacre a bunch of neighborhood people. Jeff uses his powers to like super speed, catch all the bullets and everything like that in his hands as the people drive off, and he noticed that his hands are bleeding where his powers are slowly diminishing. His invulnerability is there, but at a lesser degree at his full power. And Michael points out that his powers need to essentially recharge, but I get confused because, like, is it that like he needs a recharge, like, you know, cool on using his powers until it's, you know, brings it back up is on its own, or that it's just the meteorite's influence is like slowly dissipating and it's gone through his system kind of situation. It's kind of like I don't know. They say it both ways. There is a comic that I looked it up before I started streaming, that Meteor Man goes to the Grand Canyon because there's like a larger chunk that landed there, and essentially, I guess every time he touches like a meteor rock, it really recharges his powers. So maybe it charges it faster when he touches a meteor rock. Otherwise, maybe it just takes a long time before it automatically recharges itself. His body recharges itself. Because when things like are ramping up by the gang members, Jeff is like sleeping. He slept most of the day away because he's like, you know, we discover his weaknesses. It's like the fact that his powers, you know, using them as actively as he does, eventually drains it, he needs kind of like a hibernation sleep essentially before it slowly recuperates. But it works, I guess, faster if he manages to absorb irradiated meteor rock. But then the Golden Lords eventually took the opportunity to sabotage the neighborhood, telephone lines, cut off access to any possible help by police, and they call out Meteor Man. And of course, the neighborhood are so scared that they're literally talking about like bargaining Jeff in order for them to stop with their terrorizing the neighborhood. But Jeff in a moment was very Captain America like, in this moment where it's like you don't have to vote whether or not you can turn me into, I'll go. But he points out that you guys love to complain. You complain to the police, you complain to like about every little thing, but y'all don't want to do nothing. You don't want to take things, take matters into yourselves to try to be like more active, not necessarily like take on the gangs head on or anything like that, but you expect everybody to do things for you, but you shy away from stepping up yourself. So now that you don't have like a big time superhero with invulnerability, it's very like Luke Cage in a way with the Luke Cage TV show, same kind of thing where it's like he may be invulnerable, but the people around him are not. And that's part of, say that with like Superman, that's like part of one of the greatest weaknesses outside of like Kryptonite, where it's like people around him are not invulnerable, and that's where you can easily get to somebody like Superman, like a Superman like character, or Luke Cage like character. So Simon calls out Meteor Man and says he hasn't time to recharge his powers, he's just human. And so he essentially gets beat up in the middle of the street. He hasn't really learned how to actually fight. But he, like Captain America, he stands up to bullies. So one of the kids that helped him out in that dumpster stands up for Jeff. Well, before that, Moses, that was one of his records that he earlier in the film laid out about like, I'll never give any of my records, is like giving up one of my arms. But he sacrifices one of his treasured records to like throw it like a freaking batarang and knocks the gun out of Simon's hands to keep him from executing Jeff on the street. And then the little kid, the two little kids who was bugging that lady earlier in the film, takes the gun and tosses it, far away. And of course, like the other Golden Lords is, now ganging up on those two kids and Jeff. And Marvin, the neighborhood bum, because he's been like playing around the only, available irradiated rock and utilizing it to kind of service himself with like making himself his own, tea, and using his X-ray vision to watch TV inside another person's house as he uses his powers to flick the channel to wherever he want to watch. Pretty much servicing himself, not bother anybody or anything like that. But he uses his powers to telekinetically toss away all the gang members' guns and allowing the neighborhood to actually go toe-to-toe with the Golden Lords and actually fight back for their community. But then the rock falls out of Marvin's hands. Both Jeff and Simon grab a hold of it. They both absorb a portion of the power, and a fight ensues between the two of them. And this gets very dope where Simon tosses Jeff through this van that's carrying tons of books, one of which he grabs hold of is like a book about Bruce Lee, and he knows for 30 seconds he learns all of Bruce Lee's moves, and of course it's very clunky as it's playing out in the scene, but he takes on hand-to-hand combat all the other Golden Lords, even one that knows actual martial arts moves, and he gets easily handled and he runs away. But then 30 seconds goes by. Now he can't really go toe to toe with Simon wholeheartedly. But then he tries to rummage through like the pile of books trying to find the Bruce Lee book again, but he ends up grabbing he thought was the book, but it's actually a book about runway modeling, and he tosses the book to Simon, and this gets very funny. I completely forgot about this, where now they doing this whole runway model battle, and you hear like music playing, like you hear in like those runway model kind of shoots, and they both kind of like take off their jacket and like try to strut at each other, and they, you know, doing like like, you know, doing this at each other. And one of the Golden Lord members asked like Goldilocks, and what's up with your man? And I'm like, my man. And then 30 seconds goes by, and you see Michael's looking at his watch like, that was 30 seconds. And thank God. That, I was like, honestly, that was really, really funny. I'm sorry. That cracked me off. Completely forgot how hilarious that scene was. But now Simon gets the upper hand. He's about to toss like a dumpster at Jeff, but he sees Jeff's dog barking at Simon. He tosses the garbage can at the dog. And of course, you see later that the dog had a couple of broken ribs from that. He's barely alive. He tosses Jeff above the buildings, and now he's high on the hog that he got like superpowers. Now, like he's like the big dog on campus. Jeff shows back up in his Meteor Man costume. He flies down and starts beating up Simon and both of his right hand goons, and ties him up, absorb all of Simon's powers into himself, leaving him a mortal man. And you see he's nearly tapped out himself, so he can't really fully recuperate Ellington the dog. But then Marvin shows up, uses the last portion of his powers to revive the dog and heal him. But then Simon's bosses and the other gang members, you know, Mr. Byers and the other gang members all show up. Then thinking that they're about to just pretty much annihilate this entire neighborhood, but here comes like the Bloods and the Crips showing up out of nowhere and above the buildings, and still completely armed. You would think that they would turn all that stuff away, but they, you know, aiming at these goons. They're about to just straight up just run away, but then the cops eventually show up and then arrest these guys. And the movie ends with like the neighborhood saved. So yeah, I mean, it's a very good story. Like I said, they made a few issues. Marvel made a couple of issues of Meteor Man comics that I should look into, and because about like other meteorites that fell to Earth that he's kind of looking for, so it won't fall into the wrong hands, I'm assuming. But I want to look that up and see like what's going on with that, because I'm eager to know like what happened post this film. But it's a very 90s film, very charming. Not like, you know, the stellar effects that you see, but I don't know, it's just like the actors involved are fun. It tells like the hero's journey very well when it comes to Jeff Reed and his growth as like a hero himself of DC. But yeah, I do highly recommend you guys checking out, especially if you haven't seen this in a long while. It's very good. Uh, it's a cult classic for a reason. But I'll see you guys in a little bit as I go over a Valentine's Day type of film. I think I quantify it as some kind of love story in a way. It stars Daniel Radcliffe, but I'll tell you guys what that is soon. But it's Black History Month, Valentine's Day month theme reviews that's coming up in the month of February, so look forward to that. And it's actually a leap year this year, so I just found out this out recently. February 29th is Superman's in-universe birthday, so technically his birthday is on a leap year, but he probably had to celebrate it other times on the 28th. But I feel bad for people who has a birthday on a literal leap year. That's kind of wild to me. But because I wouldn't know how that would feel if like your day is kind of automatically skip a few times, a few years at a time. But yeah, when I was talking about Superman and everything like that, Superman's birthday is on February 29th. That would make him a Pisces, I think. But anyway, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Meteor Man movie. Have you read the comics at all? And like and subscribe, share this with your friends, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.